it worked out very good because Albany State was on a semester basis. I mean, quarter basis. Morehouse was on a semester basis. So when I got the letter, you know, the semester at Albany State was closing out. I mean, this quarter was closing out. But the winter quarter at Morehouse was starting in January or February. That's that second semester. So I got the letter in prior to the starting of that, you know, the second semester. So between that time, I was with the movement, talking bad about President Dennis. It was, like I said, that's my only regret. You know, and when I did get the word he had passed, I really felt bad, because by then, you know, I realized that, you know, he was just a pawn being used. You know, the guy wasn't necessarily, you know, as bad as I had always made him out to be. But then again, he was not one of my heroes under any circumstance, because see, he had an opportunity earlier to show me where he was, and he didn't do a very good job of that. But I can't say I understood that, because see, I knew the founding president of Albany State,
Joseph Hawley.
Joseph Hawley. That's right. I met him a couple of times. In fact, we lived right down from him. And the thing I do remember about the first time I met him, like I said, I was on the farm. I had never met any man with hands as soft as his. I was really impressed with him for that. As I said, if we were working, I mean, he smiled and would just wave. But if we were out there playing football, you know, because we had all these guys, you know, he would just turn his head and pretend that he didn't see us. And that used to kind of bother me. But then I realized that, you know, maybe it was from the aspect of he thought that young black men should be working rather than wasting their time, you know, out playing. And it took me some years to come to that conclusion. At the time, I had a name for him because but I think he had our best interests at heart. I really do. That's right. I really think he did. But like I said, you know, that was just certain things you have to live and learn.
Next question. When you go to Morehouse, do you continue to work in the movement?
Yes. I got to Morehouse, and Dr. King, Dr. Mays explained to me that he was aware of my record, but he did tell me, now, you do whatever you want to do. He said, but remember, I didn't invite you up here to march. I invited you here to learn. But I did. I worked on it. In fact, I suppose that I learned more working with the movement in Atlanta than I did in Albany. Because when I got to Atlanta and began to work with the movement, there were certain things that the guys always said. I'll never forget. It was a late one evening, and Andy Young, he said that, you know, wasn't too many of us there, but he said, I want you all to remember one thing. He said, one of these days, you got to sit down and work with these people. In other words, he was saying, don't allow these activities to get so steeped in your mind that start to impact your coming and going and dealing with people. But I didn't need that because I had gotten over that when I was in jail. Because I was a very nice Sunday school person. Good Christian man. Studied my Bible. I always enjoyed doing that. And then here I am sitting in jail. And white people out there free. And I knew what the Bible said. You know, it was so clear in my mind at that time how the Bible said, how can you say you love God, of whom you have not seen, and hate your brother who you see daily? You're a liar, and the truth is not in you. That scripture. And so when I was in jail, I got over in the corner by myself. And I just asked the Lord a question. I wanted to know from the Lord, where are all your white Christians? And the answer came back, Drew, that's not your business. You just love them. I was mad. But I was more afraid than I was mad. Because I said, you know, how do you get upset with God? And so I went back and sat in the corner. But I was sitting in the corner. But in my heart, I was standing up protesting. I was out. The civil rights movement was important because what it did, it made a group of individuals take a look at themselves and realize that they were more than what society said they could be. That no one from the outside can determine your destiny. Your destiny is much more wrapped up within yourself than within anybody else. It doesn't matter, because at that time, the civil rights movement made us realize that it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. What matters is the number of times you get up. And the only way that anybody can keep you down is that they got to stay down with you. And the civil rights movement made that as a big point. That it doesn't matter what you do. We're moving on up. And I would tell young people today, things are not going to be like you want them to be all the time. Sometimes certain things you're going to have to accept. You might have to pay a price. But that's okay. But before you decide what you're going to do, look at the game. Determine what are the rules of the game. And then you can decide whether you're willing to pay the price to play that game. If you decide you're willing, then play the game with all your heart. If you decide it's not worth it, then realize this is your decision and you turn away and go get a game of your own. Don't let anybody else determine your destiny. Determine it for yourself. And the civil rights movement made a race of people realized that they had much more to do with their own destiny than anybody else. And if we had to do it over again, no second thoughts, no regrets.